Okay, are we ready to go? That's turned off, that's turned off, that's turned off, that's turned on now. And I think everything is working. Do I still remember how to do this? I don't know, we're going to find out. So let's go ahead and get this started. Hello, Shadowcat back! We're back at this now. Finally. I know, I missed a week. I felt bad missing a week, but had to be done. Had to go, or I had an accident, hurt my wrist, had to go in for x-rays and all kinds of good stuff like that, but everything is okay. We're going to be back at this. I've got the brace off currently, and I'm feeling okay. So it's some kind of soft tissue injury that I have, tendons, muscles, things like that. So whatever I did when I landed, I can now move my hand down. I can move it up. I can move it to the left, because my left arm, you can kind of turn your hand to the side. So I kind of do that. However, twisting my arm is proving to be a very difficult thing. Like, I can turn my hand vertical to pick up, say, a cup. And picking up a cup is still a bit of a struggle because there's no strength there right now. However, I tried to make a sandwich, and I cannot turn my hand all the way over. So that made trying to make a sandwich very difficult. So I am improving slowly, and I'm feeling well enough that we can get back to doing modules. Let's see, and I look at the chat. JP is in the chat. Hello, JP. Blizzastar is in the chat. Hello, Blizz. JP says, is the brace supposed to be on? And the answer to that is yes, most of the time. But I have to take it off eventually to exercise my wrist, otherwise, it's not going to heal properly. So I can take it off for brief periods of time. So, like, I'll take it off when I'm doing a lot of stuff on the keyboard, like I'm going to be doing today. But then afterwards, it goes back on. And it goes back on when I'm sleeping, because the last thing that I want to do is, like, roll over on my arm or something, and then sleeping will not happen anymore. That would be very unpleasant. So we're gonna do this. We're gonna be fine. I'm gonna be fine. It's all gonna be fine. The more times you say it, the more true it becomes, right? Isn't that the rule? I think that's the rule. It's the rule now. Anyway, let's get things turned on. We're going to need, of course, our spreadsheet. And since it's been a minute, why don't we go through and just kind of do a quick little recap on what we did so far. So with the Eldar, we're almost done. As far as I can tell, I think we're almost done. And I had a thought. And I didn't like the thought, but I had a thought. I'm still a little bit on the fence whether or not I'm even going to allow Astartes in this game when it comes, because Astartes are way too overpowered. I mean, I don't... We may have to revisit the level adjustment on them. Maybe have to revisit the stats. I'm not sure. But I think that Astartes are just too overpowered for any player character to actually run one. But I was thinking that if I did allow them, well, we had to go through and do all the different paths of the Asuanari for the Eldar. We would probably need to go through and do at least all the major chapters of the Space Marines. And I'm not exactly sure how many major chapters of Space Marines there are. I know that if you count all, like, little sub-chapters, there's hundreds of them. And more every day, because when you get into the little sub-chapters and the divisions and everything else, it's the Wild West. You can basically make up whatever Space Marine division you want and just say, no, they're a branch off of Space Wolves, okay? So they're totally just Space Wolves, but they've got this one modification to them. If we did that, we'd be here for the rest of eternity. But there's a set number of primary chapters, and I don't remember how many. In fact, I don't even think I ever knew how many. I know there's about half as many as there used to be, thanks to Horus. But yeah, if we were to actually allow Space Marines in, we would have to go through and do all those chapters, and they would be very, very similar to the Paths of the Warrior, where they would just have their own progression structure and things like that. So, I don't know if we're even going to allow Astartes. I don't even know if I want to go through and do all of that, but we'll find out when the time comes. But anyway, we started with the warrior paths because some of the warrior paths get armor, some of the warrior paths do not. So we started, of course, with the Dire Avengers because the Dire Avengers are just kind of like the generic military of the Eldar, okay? There's nothing really special about these guys except they are professional soldiers. And they're really, really good at what they do. And so when we did that, we made armor that is pretty just standard. We took all the armors of those particular levels, we averaged them out, and we made ourselves some Dire Avenger armor. Fire Dragon armor is very similar to that. We made it a little bit weaker, just like 1 point weaker because they get spikes on it. But that's Fire Dragons for you. Their entire thing is they're going to get in close, they're going to get in quick, and they're going to blow things the hell up. And they're going to have a good time doing it. Howling Banshee Army is actually similar to the Dire Avenger armor and the Fire Warrior armor, with the added benefit that the helmet comes with basically a loudspeaker installed so that they can scream at you. And that's pretty much it. That's really all they do, is they scream at you. So the trade-off for these is that they don't really have a whole lot of upgrade slots to them. They still have some, but not as many. Striking Scorpion's armor, very, very similar to the Howling Banshee armor, except instead of screaming at you, they face stab you with their face. Well, technically it's the Mandi Blasters that are on either side of their face, but you get it. I mean, just don't ever look a Striking Scorpion in the eye. JP says Karens. Yes, every Striking Scorpion comes with a what do you call that? Is it a, I want to say a pixie cut? Is it a pixie cut? No, it's not a pixie cut. There's a name for that particular hairstyle, and I cannot think of it right now. It's not a bowl cut, it's not a pixie cut. I'm gonna regret this if I can't ever think of it. I'm moving on, though. And then, the armor that I was really excited for would be the Dark Reapers. So, they got power armor. Power armor is awesome. And anybody who says power armor is not awesome, you get in your power armor and you kick them right in the crotch. Okay? Because power armor is awesome. And this power armor is extra awesome. So, fun stuff. But now we get to move into some of the... okay. So today, we're working on the armor, and where's my list? Oh, I think it might be over here in the paths. Right, okay, so I made the quick little list right here of the different paths. So we did Fire Dragons, Howling Banshee, Striking Scorpions, Dark Reapers, and... okay. I'm going to change the order here. Okay, because I can. You're going to go there, and then you can go... oh, nope, don't do that. You can go up behind it. There. It's my stream, and I can do what I want. And I want to do Swooping Hawk armor. Besides, Warp Spider armor kind of terrifies me at the moment, so we'll have to wait and see about that one. But we got to do Swooping Hawks, we got to do Warp Spiders, and we got to do Shadow Specters. Now, Shadow Spectre armor, I expect, is not going to be anything too complicated. Famous last words. But I do believe that the Shadow Spectre armor just comes with like integrated targeting and things, and so it shouldn't be that big a deal. Swooping Hawk armor, on the other hand, Swooping Hawk armor comes with wings, and I love flight. So that's what we're doing first. We're gonna do Swooping Hawks. Now, because this is Swooping Hawks, it's going to have to be light armor. And I'm going to say Swooping Hawk armor 1, Swooping Hawk armor 2, and Swooping Hawk armor 3. And yes, I know I am typing like painfully slow, but it's the best I can do right now. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy this so we can paste it down here. The levels are 12, 16, and 20. There we go. Price, we don't need to worry about right now. Armor. So this stuff is going to basically be Dire Avenger armor, but it's got to be lighter because it's got to fly. And that means that for the advantage of getting... Oh, I forgot to... I forgot the pre-install part. Pre-installed. Okay. And we'll just format painter that over. So for the price of flight, we're going to have to cut somewhere. That means we're probably going to have to cut our armor bonus. We're going to have to cut our upgrade slots because flight is going to be pretty significant. So let's go ahead and bring in our browser and we can take a look at these things. I need to move this over where I can better use it. Okay. So, Shining Spears, I don't know. Oh, I remember why we're on the Shining Spears. Just because we had to see if they even had a, if they even had special armor. And they don't. So, we didn't need to worry about them. Okay, so right out the gate, we've got a picture of one of our Swooping Hawks. They have glorious wings. I love the wings. And interestingly, I want to take a look at armor. Okay, go away. And armor upgrades. I want to see if there is a flight upgrade already. So we've already got jump jets. And actually, I'm not even going to look here. I'm going to come over to the Archive of Nethys because this is a bit more comprehensive. So, Archive of Nethys, we've got jump jets down here, so that's great and all. Juggernaut boosters for heavy empowered, reactive polarization, and exit pod. Long Strider module to make you run faster. That's always nice. There's a jetpack. Alright, let's take a look at the jetpack. So, you gain a fly speed of 30 feet with average maneuverability. You can use this for cruising flight at a usage of only 1 charge per minute, but you are flat-footed and off-target while doing so. Changing from normal flight to cruising flight or vice versa is a standard action. The jetpack cannot lift you if you are encumbered. Okay, so we already have flight built in. And that's great. We can do that. Only problem is this actually does come with a capacity and a usage. So we'll have to type all that in. Glider foils, no. Is there a better type of flight? Let's see. Battery unit, force pack, force fields, burrowing arms in case you want to go underground. Life shield, teleportation. Ooh, teleportation unit? We might need that later on. We'll see, or we'll use that as a template when we get to the warp spiders. Okay, I do not see any other flight except for the jetpack. And the jetpack is only level 5. Still, though, it does give us something. It tells us that we can fly at a speed of 30. It uses 2 charges per round unless you're in cruising flight, and then it uses only 1 charge per minute. Which means that this thing can fly for 40 minutes that way. Which, honestly, is not really that impressive. If I grab my phone... So, at cruising speed, you can fly for 40 minutes. And your speed is 30 feet per turn. So, there's 10 turns in a minute. So that's 10 times 30, that's 300. Times 40 minutes is 12,000 feet. 12,000 feet. Now, how many feet are there in a mile? I never remember this one. It's like 5,200 and some odd. It's like 5,236 or something like that. How many feet are there in a mile? If I'm right, or at least if I'm close, that means that you can fly about 2 miles with the jetpack? Which ain't great. Yes, that's really not great. Well, I mean, we'll do what we can. So what I think we're going to do is I'm going to keep the 30 feet of speed. For the power, we'll give it a good battery. We'll give it a good battery, and we'll make it just, 1 usage per round, because I don't really like the way they do these things. It will not have a cruising mode, because it's going to be wings, obviously. But I think we can capitalize on the maneuverability. So maneuverability is perfect, and then good, and then average, then poor, and then clumsy. And the penalties are basically just mirrors of each other. What I think we can do is we can make the level 20 armor perfect maneuverability, the level 16 armor good maneuverability, and the level 12 armor average maneuverability. And so that'll give us a little bit of progression there. So as far as the armor bonus, I'm going to come up here to the Fire Dragon armor. This is 14, 17, 21. I'm going to knock it down again. Well, no. Dire Avenger armor is 15, 18, 22. I think I'll knock it down by 3. So 15, 18, 22. That's going to be plus 12, plus 15, and plus 19. The kinetic armor bonus is going to be the same. And so this will be the same. Now, maximum dexterity bonus, there is no maximum dexterity bonus. Armor check penalty, there is no armor check penalty. Would you stop it? Thank you. So do it this way. Paste. There. Now you're texted again. Okay, speed adjustment. There is no speed adjustment. Upgrade slots. Would you stop trying to reference those cells? You're supposed to be text-based. There. Now it is. Dire Avenger armor comes with 4, 5, and 6. I'm going to kick that down by 2. So it's going to be 2, 3, and 4. The bulk, of course, is going to be light. And then pre-installed will be wings. And that's going to be let's look at our batteries again. What were our battery options? So we'll come down to weapons. Batteries. Okay. So with batteries, we've got just a regular battery with 20 charges, high capacity, super capacity, ultra capacity. So if we said that if we just divide it by 4, that means that 1 through 5 would be regular battery, 6 through 10 would be high capacity, 11 through 15 then would be super capacity, and 16 through 20 would be ultra capacity. So, since this is level 12 armor, we're going to go ahead and give this one the super capacity. So we're going to say 80 charges, 1. And I'm going to try to be fair here. It's going to be 1 per... well, hold on. Let's think about this. Okay, so the jetpack. We already established that the jetpack, if it's flying at cruising speed, can fly for 40 minutes. However, normally it uses 2 charges per round. So automatically we are cutting the battery in half. That leaves us with 20. And that's 20 rounds. There's 10 rounds in a minute, which means that in combat, maneuvering and everything else, it only lasts for 2 minutes. That sucks. So we're going to do better than that. I'm going to go ahead and I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to still go by rounds. But if it's only 1 per round, that means we got 80 charges. That means that the wings should go for 8 minutes straight. But let's take a look at the swooping hawks in see what we want to do about this. So, combat role, exarchs, shrines, Phoenix Lord. Here we go, war gear. So, like other Eldari aspects, they wear lightweight synthetic bodysuits, reinforced plates with psychosensitive bioplastics. We've read all that before. The swooping hawks wear cunningly constructed wings made up of vibrating feather plates that incorporate small anti-gravitic emitters. When they take to the air, these wings vibrate with such speed that they turn into a blur of color. Swooping hawk armor is often blue-gray to reflect the background color of the sky. Their wings are colored in brilliant, vibrant shades which create dazzling, polychromatic patterns when in flight. Because swooping hawks had to be concerned about maintaining their maneuverability in flight, their aspect armor is lighter and thinner than that of the other aspect warriors. This means they have less protection from weapon impacts or melee blows than their fellows, but their increased speed and maneuverability normally more than makes up for this lack. The armor holds a spirit stone. Yes, we know that. And the helmet. Let's see. Within each helmet, it has tall, swept back, allowing for better aerodynamics. Didn't really say anything about anything special about the helmet. The wings. Swooping hawk wings are specialized Eldari jump packs. I'm sorry, what? Jump packs, not jet packs? Can they not actually fly? No, they can fly. They have an impressive flight speed and maneuverability. It's just not all done by the wings. So the wings are specialized jump packs used exclusively by them, composed of vibrating feather plates. We just read that. The large wings also allow them to glide for long distances. However, there's already rules in Starfinder for covering gliding, so we don't need to do that. While the vibrating feathers emit a distinctive shrieking sound, so they're not exactly stealthy, as if the prismatic colors didn't give it away. And their weapon of choice, of course, is the Last Blaster. You can use whatever you want. And a Cloud Sweeper. Variant of the Last Blaster that fires in 3-round bursts. Okay. So, yeah, there's not a whole lot there. They get the wings and they get the flight. It does not seem like they use this necessarily for long-distance travel, though. So, 1 per round means that this thing will give you 8 uninterrupted minutes of flight time. And as my players have found out, while combat may take a long time to actually play through, there's not a whole lot of rounds that really go into it. That's 80 rounds that you could stay up in the air. It's longer than pretty much the entire fight usually. So yeah, I'm going to say 1 per round. And this is going to be average maneuverability. Okay. Next up, though, we've got wings. And starting with level 16, we can go to the ultra capacity batteries, so that's 100. So it's going to be 100 charges, 1 per round with good maneuverability. And same thing, except we're going to change it to perfect. So copy, paste. But that's going to be perfect. And the difference is, normally when you're flying, and I can actually pull up the rules for this, because that's under skills. And that's acrobatics. So when it comes to flying, generally you need to attempt an acrobatics check to fly. So you can attempt an acrobatics check to fly if you can fly to avoid falling damage, obviously. If you can fly, why would you fall? You can try to fly in dangerous wind conditions, although I don't recommend it. You can also hover, though. Safe flight typically requires momentum. If you wish to stay in place or hover while flying, you must attempt an acrobatics check as a move action. If you fail, you fall. If you have clumsy maneuverability, you cannot hover at all. If you have perfect maneuverability, you can hover automatically without attempting a check. So, if you're going to be a swooping hawk, the first time you pick up your armor, congratulations, you can fly. Now, your flying will probably just be you using your wings to jump these long arcs over everybody else to get yourself into a better position. You can also fly from point A to point B. You know, it's fine, whatever you want to do, as long as you can get there within 8 minutes. At level 16, you can now hover, and the DCs to, based on prevailing wind conditions. Okay. So, whether an acrobatics check is required to fly in those conditions, whether the creature can take 10 on acrobatics check to fly, these wind conditions typically represent fairly clear skies and consistent wind speeds. It can increase as much as 5 for choppy winds, airborne debris, etc. So, light to moderate winds, we're looking at DC 15 to hover. And if you've got the skill points, you can take 10. And if you've got good maneuverability, that usually gives you, I believe, a +1 or a +2 to your flying check. I don't recall exactly, but you could roll to do that. You could take 10 to do that. That's fine. That's great. Whatever you want to do. As soon as you hit level 20, though, those checks go away. Not only do you have a better suit of armor that can fly for 10 minutes uninterrupted, but you can just sit there and hover in the air if you want to. No one can say anything about it. So I like it. I think that's really good. I'm going to copy those. I'm going to paste those down there. And I guess we're going to call that good. There's not a whole lot that goes into Swooping Hawk armor. It's just probably my favorite armor. Because if I had to play like Eldar, I would probably want to have a whole bunch of Swooping Hawks. And I mean, just because I love it, I would probably have Swooping Hawks and my Dark Reapers. Because why not? We've got you from the ground, we've got you from the air. I would say maybe we got you from the sea too, but I didn't see anything for that really. I mean, there was the one Asura path, but even then, that was just like ships in general, wasn't it? Yeah, Path of the Mariner, Scholar, yeah, Path of the Mariner, shipbuilders, builder prodigies, yeah. So they do just any ships. They're not particularly nautical ships. Okay then, let's move on, because the next one up is going to be the Warp Spiders. And this is where things can get complicated. Okay, let's just set it up first. Warp Spider armor. This is going to be light armor. Why? Because that just seems right. I'm going to copy this. Oh, wait. I did that wrong. There we go. Copied. And pasted. Warp, spider, armor 1. Warp, spider, armor 2. Warp, spider, armor 3. JP says, warp spiders? This is nightmare fuel. Oh yeah, if you're an arachnophobe, you're going to have a bad time. I mean, imagine spiders that teleport. I am not an arachnophobe, so I am not going to have a problem with this. I don't like spiders, but I'm not afraid of spiders either. I'll put them in a cup and throw them outside or something. I'm not going to touch a spider, but I'm not going to smash one either. Okay, before I can even begin to comprehend what this armor is going to look like, let's take a look at what the warp spiders are actually like. So, as we already discussed, warp spiders epitomize the doctrine of aggressive defense, using compact warp spider jump generator housed in a backpack on their armor, operating in squads of 5 to 10, which are sometimes led by an exarch. They make short warp jumps, disappearing into the immaterium and reappearing in real space in the blink of an eye. Already, this is kind of a problem. And the reason this is kind of a problem is for something that we haven't gotten into. One of the things that we are going to get into after the after we get done with the Eldar, we're probably going to do Psychers next. We'll probably do the psychic system next. Just because after getting races done, most races have Psychers to some degree. And so doing the psychic system next makes sense. We'll have to come back and finish up the aspect of the Seer for the Eldar. The Imperium has Psychers. The Tau technically have Psychers now, but I'm inclined to ignore that. So we'll probably do that, and then afterwards, we'll probably do warp travel, and that's going to be complicated. Also, I see PC Unicorns in the chat. Hello. Why'd you glass the planet? Saw a warp spider. Enough said. Press the Exterminatus button. I mean, believe it or not, that actually kind of fits. I mean, whether it's an actual teleporting spider or an actual Eldar warp spider, it's just like, so, why'd you glass the planet? I saw a warp spider. It works either way. I'm not sure if it would justify Exterminatus. Usually they have to justify that to their higher-ups, but you never know. It's like, yeah, I saw an Eldar. Okay, well, maybe a bit extreme, but if you see one Eldar, there's probably a whole lot more sitting inside the webway. But, anyway, webway is a good segue back. Talking about warp travel. See, here's the thing about warp travel. And here's the thing about the warp in general. Psychers draw energy from the immaterium, and they manifest it in real space. Now, sometimes they can become a conduit for the creatures of the immaterium to come through, but either way, whether they're bringing creatures through or they're just bringing power through, they're channeling the immaterium into real space. Which is why Psychers can do things that can't be done. I mean, we have rules in physics. We have the laws of motion. We have Newtonian physics. We have relativistic physics. We have thermodynamics. We have all of these things that dictate how the universe works. And Psychers can ignore all of it. They can just create energy. Now, is it technically just creating it? No, because it's coming from the immaterium, but from the perspective of our universe, a Psycher can just create energy whether it's a fireball or a lightning bolt or sound or whatever it happens to be, they are installing energy into a place where that energy wasn't before, and that energy does not have a source. There's no cause to this effect. And so psychers can just violate all the natural laws because it's what they do. Similarly, when you travel through the warp, you are also leaving all known laws of physics. It's one of the most treacherous things about warp travel. You can do everything right, and you can still be screwed. You know you're traveling into the warp, so let's go off the checklist. Do you have a ship? Okay, you've got a ship. Is your ship space-worthy? It is a space-worthy ship. All right. So we're off to a good start. You've got a crew who knows what they're doing. Check. You have a Geller field installed. Check. You have a Psyker in the Geller field. Check. You should have done everything right, and you can now contain a pocket of real space around you and travel into the warp. And the warp should not be able to hurt you. However, once you've entered into the warp, the ideas of space and time no longer apply. In the Warhammer 40k lore, there are cases of ships who have transported across the galaxy in a matter of days and weeks. There are also cases of ships who have been off on just a quick little warp jump who have shown up years or decades later. Because time does not exist in the Immaterium. As far as the ship is concerned, it was a quick little 3-day journey. All they're doing is traveling from like the inner solar system to the outer solar system. But as far as the Immaterium is concerned, it's been a lot longer. There's also the aspect of time. Depending on how things go during your warp travel, sometimes you can be gone for decades, whether it's a long jump or a short jump, or sometimes you can even travel backwards in time, where you arrive at your destination before you actually left your origin. So warp travel is weird, and warp spiders do this on an individual basis. I do not know if I need to take any of that into account as we do this. I do believe that when they do this, there needs to be some kind of failure state where you can, every time you jump, there should be a risk. Even if that risk is just roll a d20, and if it lands on a 1, something bad happens. And PC Unicorn says, sounds like that ship traveled at light speed, not warp. Even if you were to travel at light speed, time stops. Okay? Time for you stops, and the rest of the galaxy time progresses for them. That means that your time remains the same, but you will essentially end up in the future of the rest of the universe. There is no way for you to travel to a point before you left, though. I mean, this is getting into the whole grandfather paradox, because now you're messing with causality. But warp travel in 40k, yeah, warp travel in the 40k does not care about causality. So, once you enter the Immaterium, all rules are gone. Anything, literally anything, can happen. Talking about warp travel in 40K would actually be very... It would be prudent to compare it to the improbability drive. So if you've seen, what's the name of it? Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, or you've read the book. The improbability drive is basically warp travel. Okay? Anything can happen. The only difference is that because it is 40K, whatever happens is usually bad. And if you want to see the results of that, look at all the ships who've had their Geller fields fail. So a ship that has lost its Geller field may occasionally wander back into real space. And they end up as space hulks. And the thing about space hulks is that if you are brave or dumb enough to actually wander into one, there are creatures that can inhabit these space hulks that have no classification because they've never been encountered before. They're not necessarily creatures of the warp, and they're not necessarily xenospecies that we know of. They're entirely unique, they're entirely unknown, and more often than not, they murder everything in sight. Sometimes the Hulk will come and it will just be empty. Not a single living thing on it. The entire ship is sterilized. Or sometimes you get the opposite. Sometimes the ship shows up and every single person, every single living thing on board has been painted across the wall, as if they were just compressed against it and smeared down the bulkhead. And that's just, some of the bad things that can happen. Then there's some weird things that can happen, where the thing will come out of the immaterium and it will be completely inert. As in, it'll be sitting there at 0 energy. And I do mean, absolute 0. So, all molecular activity inside the ship has stopped, and the only reason it has any energy now at all is because as radiation in the galaxy and, particles in space keep impacting it, it's transferring energy into this thing and slowly raising it back up from 0. Weird things happen in the warp. And that's something that we're playing with every time here. But let's read a little bit more and see if maybe we can intuit a little bit more from it. So they make a short warp jump, disappearing into the immaterium, reappearing into real space in the blink of an eye. So they're just teleporting, really. This enables them to make totally unexpected attacks on their foes, so it does necessitate spending a short time unshielded in the Epherian. For this reason, they are considered to be the bravest of all warriors. They risk not only lives in the name of victory, but their souls, as Slanesh hungers for the souls of all Eldari who enter the realm of she who thirsts unprotected. Let's see. They're regarded as strange and terrifying, the furthest removed from normal Eldari. Alright, let's take a look then. Not at their Exarchs, although he is pretty cool. Oh, and Unicorn says, travel using relativistic physics faster than light shouldn't be possible, but the math says could be with infinite power. Okay. I'm gonna go on a tangent here, okay? I'm gonna adjust my microphone here. Okay. I'm gonna go on a bit of a tangent here. Because I am a physics nerd, okay? I gotta go on a bit of a tangent. There's a problem with relativistic physics, and it's a problem that not a whole lot of whatever. It's a problem that a lot of people don't want to talk about. Einstein's theories are great, okay? His field equations are fantastic. His work in his work founding relativistic physics, explaining things like time dilation and such, they're all really, really good. However, there is a really, really big problem with Einstein's relativistic physics, and this is a problem that I have explained to a lot of people before. Because a lot of people will get into these arguments talking about speed of light and travel and everything. And one of the things that I explain to them is this. What is the fastest thing in the universe? I'll ask this question and everybody says, well, obviously it's light in a vacuum. And that is true to a point. Because we don't know what the fastest thing in the universe is. It's the fastest thing that we know of. However, gravity. Gravity is one of the fundamental forces of the universe. And it is a force that we still do not understand. We can see that it works. We understand how gravity works. We can see its effect on everything in the universe. We can see its effect every day when we wake up. I mean, every day you interact with gravity. We can see what happens when gravity is very low, and we can observe things like nebula in space. We can see what happens when gravity is extremely high, and we can observe black holes. We've got a pretty good understanding of how gravity works and what it does, but we do not actually know what gravity is. Now, Einstein has theories, as he calls gravity simply a curvature, a warping of the fabric of space. And it's about the only way that we can understand it. Because if you're going to say that gravity is the warping of space, then the next question you have to ask is, well, what is space then? And answering the question of what is space is a little bit like asking a fish to tell you what is water. What do you mean, what is water? We're in the water. How do you describe the water? I mean, there's warm water, there's cold water, there's fast water, there's slow water, there's still water, there's deep water. We have all these descriptions, or a fish would have all these descriptions, similar to we have all these descriptions for space. But what is it? We don't know. We can't take a sample of space and measure it. Similarly, light. Light is the fastest thing that we can measure. But think about the tools that we're using to measure light. We have our eyes, okay? And our eyes are pretty good. We can see light. We can see visible light. That's why we call it visible light. There are some animals that can see infrared light. And there are some, especially some insects that can see ultraviolet light. I think there's even some birds that can see ultraviolet light as well. Then we have all of our machines. We have telescopes. We have visible telescopes that we've been using for a long time. We have infrared telescopes, we have radio telescopes, we have ultraviolet telescopes, we have X-ray telescopes, we have gamma ray telescopes. But the one thing that they all have in common is that they're all measuring light. So saying that nothing can travel faster than light is a bit like saying, well, I mean, there's nothing that can travel faster than a car on the road, but you're only measuring Honda Civics. There could be something else out there that we have no idea exists because there is no tool that we currently have that is even capable of detecting it. One of those mysterious particles would be tetrons. Supposedly, tetrons are similar to neutrinos in that they do not interact with normal matter. Neutrinos, by and large, do not interact with normal matter because they are so incredibly tiny. Neutrinos are a subatomic particle that is capable of flying right through an atom. And if you know anything about particle physics, you know that like 99% of everything in the universe is empty space. Because atoms held together by either ionic or covalent bonds are not physically touching. It's just a combination of charges that keeps them close together. The rest of it is empty space, so neutrinos, right through. Tetrons are supposed to be similar, except that they do not interact with anything. So there's also weird things like tetrons are supposed to not be bound by time. They're like a timeless particle. Time doesn't affect them. There's lots of theories as to what they might be, but the point is that if we had a light that shone in nothing but tetrons and we pointed a telescope at it, we would see nothing. And so this mysterious particle that travels faster than light, we have no idea. And that's a big problem with Einstein's theories on relativity and such. It's incomplete. And it's not his fault, it's not our fault either, but it's incomplete. We cannot say that we know everything because we don't know the things that we don't know. And this goes back to Grecian philosophy, when I believe it was Plato said, the only thing that I know is that I know nothing. It's because, yeah, was he a philosopher? Yes. Was he very learned? Yes. But he was learned enough to realize that there's a lot out there that I can't explain. And if there's a lot out there that I can't explain, imagine the things that I don't even know about. That's where we're at when it comes to physics. We've got a pretty good handle on the physics that we know about. We're at the point where we need some kind of breakthrough if we're going to really expand that. And when we do, when we find a new type of particle, a new type of detection method, something like that, it is going to absolutely annihilate everything that Einstein ever did, unfortunately. Because once we find that, half of Einstein's field equations are no longer going to be valid. And pretty much everything that he did on light is also going to be probably rendered invalid. Will it still be true that, matter as we know it cannot exceed the speed of light? Yes. However, with this new branch of physics, we will be able to incorporate so many new materials and such that the whole thing about matter not traveling faster than light may not apply anymore. So the whole thing about, Einstein's math says you can't travel faster than light because it would require infinite power. Nah, it doesn't require infinite power. It just requires knowledge that we don't have yet. And PC Unicorn says, headcanon. Neutrinos as we observe them could be fourth dimensional shadows. I mean, probably not, because we have a pretty good handle on neutrinos at this point. There's always room that we could be wrong. But neutrinos are just subatomic particles. And they're subatomic particles that are generated primarily through nuclear fusion, and we've discovered that through a lot of our particle collider tests. So when we take a particle collider, we put a couple of atoms of hydrogen or deuterium or something like that in there. We spin it around, we smash them into each other, we get to see all the different particles that come out. We can generate neutrinos when we do that. Now, if we can generate a few neutrinos by smashing two atoms of hydrogen into each other and fusing them, well, annihilating them really, then the fusion happening in the core of the sun is also generating neutrinos. Now, knowing what we know about neutrinos, about their size, about their interaction with matter, we can use math to calculate how many neutrinos is the sun emitting, how many neutrinos is the sun generating, and we can compare that to the other types of radiation that the sun is giving off. And what we discovered when we did the math is that the sun is giving off so many more neutrinos than it is giving out things like photons. Which means that photons cannot escape the sun because of the sun's incredible gravity and incredible density. It takes a photon centuries to escape the sun because it tries to emit outwards, it runs into something else and falls back. It tries to get out, it hits something, falls back. It takes a really, really long time for photons to actually get to the surface of the sun where they can be emitted. Neutrinos, however, come out in much, much higher volume, which means the density of the sun, not even a factor. The sun is just spewing out neutrinos. Physics is cool. I can talk physics for a really long time if you want to. Not the purpose of today, but I can talk physics for a really long time if anybody wants to have a conversation about that. Hey, if you want a lecture on physics, let me know in the chat and I can put together a lecture on something in the future. I'll leave it up to you if you're interested. But anyway, back to 40K, because we're not dealing with relativistic physics here, we're dealing with very much unrelativistic and unrealistic physics here. So with the warp spiders, they have to touch the warp, which means that they are briefly going to be out of our space and anything could happen. They're experts in surprise assaults, teleporting onto the battlefield in a storm of crackling lightning, but they also know when it's prudent to withdraw from combat and regroup. They use death spinners, which we've already covered. Death spinners are just war crimes strapped to their forearms. Okay. So, aspect armor. So they have a lightweight synthetic bodysuit, yes. So it's gonna be light armor. Using a compact warp spider jump generator housed within their armored backpack, they utilize to make short warp jumps, disappearing and reappearing in the blink of an eye. This enables them to make totally unexpected attacks upon their foes, though it does necessitate spending a short time unshielded in the warp. Now, interestingly enough, I did a little bit of research, and I don't have that research pulled up. Maybe I can get it again. And that was warp spider right, there it is. It's saved in my history. Warp spider teleport range. Because I wanted to know how far can they actually teleport. Now, of course, there's two answers to this. Number one is the mechanical answer from the game. But then we need a lore answer too, because the lore answer is honestly what I'm more interested in. According to the Google AI overview, it says the warp spider generator allows them to move an extra 4d6 inches. Yeah, 46 inches on average, or 21 inches roughly, using their ability. This makes them one of the faster units, but their movement can be unreliable. So 4d6 inches. That means that since Warhammer is roughly 1/64th in scale, that means that if I were to take the maximum, and say that would be 24 inches. I wonder if I put this in the chat, actually. I don't know if I did. But 24 inches. And I multiply that by 64 because it's, 1/64th. If I hit equal on that, that turns out to be 1,536 inches. If I divide that then by 12, that comes out to 128 feet. And I'll go ahead and round up into, say, 130 feet. That means that on the battlefield, they could move, and if I divide that by 5, that's 26 squares. And 26 squares is not bad. However, 26 squares when you're actually measuring distances, most characters have a move speed of about 30 feet per round, which comes out to walking speed about 3 miles an hour. So that's a pretty good average. That means that you can move roughly 30 feet in 6 seconds. Now, you could hustle, a quick walk, and you can double that to move about 60 feet in 6 seconds. Totally doable. Or, you can multiply that by 4, or was it 5? 4 or 5, one or the other, I don't remember what, to just flat out run. And if you run, you can move up to 4 or 5 times your move speed in 6 seconds. And so at a full run, 4, so that'd be 30 times 4, be 6, be 120 feet to 150 feet in 6 seconds. And I mean, that's fast. That's really fast. And that would be 6 times 5, that'd be 15 squares. On the outside. These warp spiders can teleport 26. So that's only 10 more squares than they could just run. And I don't think that's really... It's useful, don't get me wrong. I just don't know if that's really appropriate. But then, I was on Reddit. And I know, don't go to Reddit. It's bad for you. And I saw a Reddit thread asking, can Eldar warp spiders teleport into enemy ships? And one person said, the generators do have a limited range, only enough to let them teleport around the battlefield, certainly not the kind of ranges that void ships fly at, which would be thousands of kilometers. However, Craftworld Eldar do possess webway gates. And that was the first answer. Second answer, though, warp spiders can also do long-distance teleports to enter a battlefield. I would guess via a long-range teleporter system on a ship or something like maybe Terminators use. So, there is some evidence that they can teleport, but we're not sure if that's actually them or not. What I think we're going to do with this one is I think we're going to go with the game rules. And we're going to say they can go for about 130 feet-ish. But before we do that, I want to look back at these armor upgrades because there was a teleport pack in here. Where was it? Teleportation unit. Here it was. So this upgrade combines an advanced real-time locating system with a magical teleportation device. It must be installed in a suit of armor for 24 hours before it functions. When the upgrade is removed from the armor, no other upgrade can use the vacated slot for 24 hours. As a standard action, you can teleport yourself per dimension door, vanishing and reappearing in a burst of what looks like holographic pixels. The charges replenish every day. Okay, so per dimension door. Let's take a look at that. That's going to be a Technomancer spell, I think. Hold portal, knock, blast door, dimension door. Here we go. So it's basically an armor upgrade that lets you use dimension door. How far can this go? So you instantly transfer your spot from your current location to any other spot within range. You always arrive at the exact spot you desired, whether by simply visualizing the area or by stating its direction. You can bring along objects as long as their weight doesn't exceed your maximum load. Okay. You can also bring up to 4 additional willing or unconscious medium or smaller creatures carrying gear and objects up to their maximum load, or their equivalent. Large creatures count as 2 medium, and a huge counts as 2 large. Okay, so how far can we go? If you survive in a place that isn't already occupied by a solid body, you and each creature traveling with you take 1d6. Okay, so that doesn't work. The only thing that I can see up here is range, and this range is long, so 400 feet plus 40 feet per level. That's a long teleport. I wonder, does Starfinder actually have teleportation? After image, no, they do have teleport. Let's take a look at that and see what the difference is. So the range on teleport is up to 2,000 miles. So it teleports you to its designation within 2,000 miles. Interplanetary travel is not possible. Neither is travel between 2 moving starships during combat, though you might be able to teleport to a planet's surface from an orbiting starship. You can bring along objects as long as their weight doesn't exceed your maximum bulk limit. You must have a clear idea of the layout and destination. This is basically the same teleport spell from Pathfinder, complete with this same chart. Okay then, you know what? I actually kind of want to use this. Because this is not a bad chart. If we go ahead and give Dimension Door... to the Warp Spiders, as written, that gives them... Let's go back and look at that, because... Duplicate. Come on. Alright, fine. You load in. I'll go back on this one. Dimensional crash. Dimension door. So the range on this is 400 feet plus 40 feet per level. Let's really think about that. You're going to get this armor at level 12. So that's going to be 400 plus, parentheses, 40 times 12. That comes out to 880 feet. Which really just beats the pants off the rules in Warhammer Tabletop. That was going to be 130 feet. This is almost it's a lot. Okay, it's a lot. 880 feet. If I divide that by 5, It's 176 squares. Most of my maps tend to be about 30 squares across. You could go pretty much anywhere you wanted to. But I think if we combined Dimension Door with the grid here, I think this could work. So if you want to use this in combat, you would be firmly in the scene casually area because you haven't had a chance to really study it. You're in combat. That is an 88% chance that when you do this, you end up exactly where you wanted to be as a standard action. Which means that you could teleport behind somebody and try to stab him in the back. There is also a roughly 12% chance then that you end up off target. And it says off target, you appear safely at a random distance away. The distance off target is the D percentage of the distance that was to be traveled. And the direction is determined randomly. So just like roll a D8. Similar area though. You wind up in an area that's visually or thematically similar to the target area, which I guess is where I would just have to roll some dice, see how far away are you, and then we can calculate how long it takes you to get back. Essentially, you just lose your turn for a few turns. And then mishaps, well, mishaps are bad. You and everyone teleporting with you are scrambled. Okay, I like this. We're going to go with Dimension Door plus the teleport table. And that should give us good warp spiders. Okay, so, because of this, they're already going to be in light armor. It's not going to be as bad as the Swooping Hawk armor because these are like combat suits, not flight suits. I may go with something similar to the Howling Banshees. However, we're also not done yet. We're not done yet. Because there's something else that comes into it. So that's just the warping part. And that's pretty significant. Okay, that's pretty significant. Okay, so it says down here, the jump generator, sophisticated warp field emitter, integrated into the armor, largely responsible for the suit's unusual bulk. Unusual bulk. Interesting. So this is going to be light armor, but I'm going to give it a bulk of 1. So normally it would be light, but it's going to have some unusual bulk to it. The generator is what allows them to make the short jumps in the material so they can cross intervening spaces nearly instantaneously. Okay. Death Spinners. We got that. Highly advanced weapon exudes a cloud of thick razor-sharp monofilament. Okay. So, spinneret rifles, we've got that. Power blades, we've got that. What I'm looking for, though, is that warp spiders... If we look up here at the warp spider picture, warp spiders usually have these things coming off the sides of their armor. And so I kind of want to make sure that we get that integrated. I'm not seeing that so much on the actual model. I don't remember exactly what was on those. But you know what? Maybe we don't need to worry about it. Whatever these are basically just armor upgrades. And so we can make sure that this thing has the upgrades. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to copy this. Oh, that's not actually going to work because I spread things out. I don't actually think I need to spread these out. There we go. Yeah, because I'm not going to put those little arms on there. It's just going to be... The only thing it's going to get is going to be the warp generator. So I'm going to give it... Actually, I'm kind of liking the Fire Dragon armor's numbers. After all, if these guys are going to be jumping into combat, especially if they jump in close range to use melee weapons, which it does seem like they like. So they do have the Death Spinner, but the Death Spinner is... I do believe the Death Spinner was integrated into their armor. It was the spike that they could stab people with. They also have power blades. They have a rifle, sure, but they seem more melee focused. So I'm thinking that we're going to borrow the Fire Dragon armor here. As a matter of fact, I'm going to borrow all of this. There we go. Alright, and that's going to make that easy for us. So we basically came down to a 15, very similar to what we did with the, well, no, 15 was the Dire Avenger armor, so that's basically... Okay, I'm actually going to kick it down a little bit. I'm going to go down by 2. Okay, I'm going to go down by 2, so it's going to be plus 12, plus 15, plus 19. For the kinetic, though, it's going to be a plus 14, plus 17, and a plus 21. Okay, so they're still going to be better in kinetic combat because they're going to want to get close. Alright, now, here is where things can get a little complicated. So, this is going to be... it's going to be a warp... What's it called? Oh, jump generator. It's going to be... I'm just going to put jump here. Okay. Now, capacity. We're going to start with, I think, 80 charges, because this thing is going to need power. And then, it's going to need probably more power the more time you spend in the warp. So, let's think about this. If I say that you can travel... And we did the math. We did the math on this one. At level 12, you can jump, according to Dimension Door, 176 squares. So that's 880 feet. With 80 charges, if I made it 1 charge for every 5 feet, that would be 5 times 80? That only comes out to 400 feet, so that's not going to work. If I said that it was 1 charge for every 10 feet, we double that and we get up to 80. But let's think about this. How far can they travel maximum? So level 20. That's 400 feet times 40 bonus feet times 20 levels. That comes out to 1,200 feet. And so that would be their maximum. Now, of course, the Warp Spiders will have 100 charges, or the level 20 Warp Spider armor will have 100 charges on it. So, if they cap out at 1,200 feet, well, that means that I could make that one charge for every 12 feet to really hit that. But that's a really weird number. All of our squares are 5-foot squares. So I may short them a little bit. I may short them and say 1,000 feet. Which means that we can make this one charge for every 10 feet. Which means, even with the level 12 armor, they'll be able to go 800 feet. We're going to short them a little bit, but I think it'll be okay. So it's going to be one charge per 10 feet. That should be good. And this is going to be 100 charges. All right, and that should work. So that means that even if we already established that this works for level 12 and 20, what about level 16? Oh, okay, hold on. I gotta install a maximum distance here. So jump 800 feet. And this is going to be jump 1,000 feet. Which means that I assume, if I do the math, level 16 will end up jumping 900. It makes sense. I'm not going to do the math. I'm just going to trust that I got this one right. Not really much of a bonus, though. You do get 20 extra squares that you can teleport, but honestly, if you can jump 800 feet, does the extra 100 feet really matter? I don't know. Maybe it would be better if I kicked it down a little bit more. What if I did like 500 and then 750? That would be a pretty significant jump up, which makes sense. That means that if you were a level 12, you had a maximum jump distance of 500 feet, you could easily get to that 500 feet on the charges that you have. And you would still have charges left over, which means that you could do multiple jumps again. Whereas at a level 20 Warp Spider, you would need to use all of your charges to go 100 feet, or 1,000 feet, but when realistically would you have to? I don't know. I do like the idea, though. Okay, I'm going to change those numbers. Just because I want to reward people for leveling up more. There needs to be a real sense of achievement here once you get that new suit of armor. Okay, if you just pick up the new suit of armor and say, it's only like 1 point more, who cares? No, you want it to be something special. And I'm also going to copy these upgrade slots because this armor is significant. Although, to be fair, to be absolutely fair, This teleport generator that they had. Armor upgrades. Teleport. The teleportation unit here is only level 13. So that actually fits in really well with the level 12 armor that we've got. And then it just gets better from there. So yeah, this works. This works well. I think that works out. I like it. So not nearly as complicated as I thought that it would be. I think I'm ready to move on. Alright, so there's only one left. Now that we're done with the warp spiders, we move on to the shadow specters. And I don't even know if that's light armor or not. Let's take a look at them. Shadow specters. So these are the guys who really put the T in teamwork. So I don't want to go through the history of them. They got a lot of it. Combat role. So masters of striking at enemies' heavy armor forces from the unseen. They use jetpacks and prism rifles. Which we've already got jetpacks, so just slap that on there. That's easy. We already made the prism rifles. Ghostlight targeting matrix to destroy armored vehicles from across the battlefield. So that's going to be significant. When we look at these guys, what did we give their aspect? Come down. Okay, shadow specters. So at level 12, when we attack a vehicle, we treat its cover as one step lower. At level 16, as a bonus feat, we get jet charge. If we already have jet charge, we can now move 4 speed. And at level 20, combined fire. When using multiple weapons of the same type, combine all attacks into a single attack using the highest attack modifier. Double the range and double the attack made with combined weapons for each weapon added. Okay. And that's just because I thought that prison weapons might be a little bit too rare. Okay, so these guys have ghostlight targeting matrices. We'll figure out what that is. Phoenix Lord. Okay, war gear. Here we go. Aspect armor. Let's take a look. The helmet is regarded as the most significant part of an aspect warrior's armor. For once the mask is donned, they hide themselves beneath. Okay, don't care. I see nothing terribly special about their armor. However, the apperceptive hood. So it incorporates a large armored hood, the exact function of which remains unclear. That's helpful. Although initial reports, it is assumed that it collects and disseminates sensor information. It is also theorized that it may contain thought-activated communication systems, targeting data relayed from the primary weapon, and controls for their hollow field generator. It has been further theorized by Imperial intelligence that the apperceptive hood may also possess a unique function, which provides the aspect warrior with an enhanced proprioception? Is that even a word? The warrior's self-awareness of his body proportion in relation to self, sensory information collected by the helmet is fed directly into their cerebellum. So it's just a hood with information. Alright, prism rifle. We already made a prism rifle, don't need to worry about it. Jetpack. They can use a jetpack, which is integral to their warrior's armor. The mastery of the anti-gravity technology resulted in the creation of this highly advanced flight system. The Elder's personal flight pack incorporates sophisticated stabilization and self-correcting controls, allowing them to adjust attitude and velocity with subconscious thoughts via cybernetic link. Okay, I'm not giving them flight. Jump pack? Yes. Flight? No. If you want flight, play a swooping hawk. I'm not giving them just straight up flight. So we will give them just a jetpack, which will let them jump good. Presentient robes? Seeming purely decorative are actually an integral part of their disruptive hollow field technology. The robes incorporate billowing, semi-transparent threads that seem to possess a life of their own. Streamers constantly swirl around the warrior, but somehow avoid becoming snagged and do not impede their actions in combat. And they have an insignia, which I don't care. So it sounds to me like they have two things going for them. Number one, jump packs, so they can jump good. And number two is this hollow field thing. Hollow field. Let's see. It makes use of warp-powered energy deflectors known as Void Shield to protect warships and other vehicles like Titans. The Eldari have chosen to maximize their advantage in speed, stealth, and deception while protecting their vehicles and warships. Hollow fields into every one of their vehicles and starships. It is a three-dimensional photonic projection created by a computer-controlled network of special laser projectors to create a field of visual distortion around a vehicle or starship. It makes it very difficult to target the vehicle or vessel, protected either by using computer-assisted targeting or by eye, since the projection distorts both electronic and physical perception of the actual location. Okay, so this does not sound like stealth. What this sounds like is blur. And I do believe we have that. Do we not have that? Okay. How about just all spells? Just show me all spells. Blur. Deceptive after images. Is that all we've got? Okay. Have it your way then. I've still got Pathfinder. So if we're not going to do it that way, we'll go Sorcerer. We'll come down to the Sorcerer Wizard spell list, which is just the Arcane spell list. Blur. Okay, here we go. Blur. It's a pretty standard, spell. It's level 2. It's an illusion spell, which means that I love it. So the subject's outline appears blurred, shifting and wavering. This distortion grants the subject concealment with just a 20% miss chance. That basically means that you roll a d10, and on a 1 or 2, there you go. You missed. Alright, so that's what we're going to want. We need jetpacks, and we need blur. So we're going to go to Eldar War Gear, and we're going to get this done. So Shadow Spectre Armor 1, Shadow Spectre Armor 2, Shadow Spectre Armor 3. And this will be light armor. And since I'm going to need to add 2 things in, we're going to go ahead and do that. There is one more thing we got to look at. Oh, stop it. There. So that's the hollow field. What about that ghost light thing? So the ghost light is a highly sophisticated targeting system recently rediscovered by the aspect warriors known as the Shadow Spectres. Additionally, the Shadow Spectre aspect warrior is capable of combining the power of their prism rifles using the ghost light. The ghost light combines each individual shot. Okay, so that's what that does then. We do not need to do that because that's already been integrated into the it's integrated into what they do. So we do not need to worry about that. Level, it's going to be 12, 16, and 20. As far as the armor bonus goes, I'm going to go ahead and grab this up here from the Dire Avengers, and I'll make modifications to it. Okay, so this is the basic armor, and we're going to have to take away from here. So because it's automatically going to be losing or getting 2 things pre-installed, that's going to go down to a 2, 3, 4. And because it is getting 2 things pre-installed, I'm going to take away 2 from each of these. So plus 13, plus 16, plus 20. And if you don't like it, don't wear it. The max dex can stay the same though. And pre-installed, that's going to be a jetpack. Or no, wait. Jump pack. And I'm going to go ahead and say hollow field. Now, the jump pack, we already have stats for. So way up here at the top, we've got jump jets. And jump jets can go on to light or heavy armor. You can activate jump jets as part of a move action in order to fly during your movement. You can fly up to 30 feet, average maneuverability with a maximum height of 10 feet. Or you can fly up to 20 feet straight up. You must land at the end of your move action. Jump jets cannot lift you if you are encumbered. Very simple. So you can either just fly 30 feet straight forward, or you can go 20 feet straight up. The important thing is that you have to land. That's the difference between the jetpack and the jump jets. With a jetpack, you don't have to land. You can end your turn cruising. Jump jets, though, you have to touch the ground or fall. So I am just going to leave the... I'm going to rename this, actually. Jump jets. Okay, so we can just use those as written in the wiki. So that's good. Now, as for the hollow field, what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to go by ways of concealment. So I'm going to start off with blur. Okay, and blur is going to give you a default 20% concealment. However, I'm going to go ahead and say that you have to activate this. It's not just going to be active all the time. So I'm going to say 80 charges and 1 per round. Okay? Which is pretty fair. That's 80 rounds of 20% concealment. If you're not using it, that's your choice. Now, concealment caps out at 50%. That means that we have a range of 20% to 50%. That's 30. We divide 30 by 2, it's 15. So, I'm going to say hollow field, 100 charges, 1 per round. And this is going to be 20 plus 15% is going to be 35% concealment. And this one down here is going to be 100 charges, 50% concealment. So again, you get bonuses the further up you go. For what it's worth, you're going at level 12 when you pick up your armor. That is a 1 in 5 chance of missing. At level 16, that becomes a 1 in 3 chance missing. At level 20, a 1 in 2 chance missing. At the same time, you've also got the maneuverability offered to you by your jump jets, which don't really get better, but hey, you don't really need them to. You can use them to automatically leap 20 feet in the air. You probably were not doing that on your own. When you add into that the fact that you have all the other abilities granted to you by being a Shadow Spectre, it makes you pretty good, because you can literally stand out there in the open relying on your concealment, line up a whole bunch of you with the same weapon, and just blow things up. Because let's not forget, it doubles the range and the damage of the attack made with a combined weapons for each weapon added. That means that we're going to come to weapons, and we're going to give these Shadow Spectres something really basic. Okay? We're going to look for rifles. We're going to go for, not projectiles, laser. Here we go. So, you don't get one of these until level 12, so we're going to say, well, no. You can't use the combined fire to the level 20, so a level 20 laser rifle does 11d6 damage, which is pretty good. However, if you've got a friend who's also, a Shadow Spectre, or I don't even know necessarily if you had to be a Shadow Spectre, I didn't write that down. I just said when using multiple weapons of the same type. So I guess technically they don't have to be a Shadow Spectre. If they're just using the same type of energy, so another laser rifle, you can combine. So technically they wouldn't even necessarily have to be the same type of laser rifle. As long as they're using a laser rifle. So maybe you've got this Zenith laser rifle, maybe they've got the Aphelion laser rifle. You get to add their 3d6 to your 11d6, and their 120 feet to your 150 feet, to do just You're doing 14d6 damage now at 270 feet. I don't want to fight that. That's basically turning every single weapon in the game into a sniper rifle as long as there's 2 of you there. That sounds like a bad day to me. But okay, there we go. That is Shadow Specters, which means we're done, I think. So let's double check this real quick. Let's just quickly go over the Eldar before we get out of here. So we've got our Eldar race, which I still don't have the level adjustment for, but it's significant. So if you want to be an Eldar, you get a +2 to your dexterity, your intelligence, your wisdom, and your charisma. You are essentially immortal. I mean, you can still be killed, you can still die from disease or whatever, but you just will not die from old age. Every Eldar will be a Psyker. You get a hardened will for your will saves. You possess a Spirit Stone, so if you die, you get to save your character sheet. And instead of taking a character theme, you get an Ossianari path. But if you do die, and if you've got a Spirit Stone, you can be reborn as a Wraith, which is a technological construct. You get +4 strength, you take a -1 to your attack and AC because you're going to be large. You get to treat every target as though it has partial concealment because you have Wraith Sight. However, you've got all of your soft ability scores, so up here, you had that +2 to your intelligence, wisdom, and charisma. You get to keep that down here. You also get to keep your skills, you get to keep your feats, and you get to keep your proficiencies. And as a construct, you're also now immune to things like, I don't know, being thrown into space. Go figure. And so we can make you into a Wraith Blade or a Wraith Guard, but if you got enough room on your ship, you can make him into a Wraith Lord or maybe even a Wraith Knight. Then we get into the War Gear, and the War Gear is nothing but war crimes. So of course we've got your typical chain swords. We've got power swords, which can just ignore armor and hardness depending on the number or the amount of power you put into it. So, you know, if you don't use any power, it's just a sword. If you decide to dump, you know, the entire battery into the blade, everything else is butter. Then they've got weapons that are just deadly. So, like this one. It's keen, so it doubles the threat range. It does no damage normally, however, on a confirmed critical, fortitude save versus death. That's it. Just fortitude save versus death. The DC is whatever you happen to roll. So if it's a level 5 Harlequin's Kiss, it's a maximum of DC 8. You probably got this. At level 20, however, it's 10d4, capping out at a DC of 40. Good luck. I mean, 10d4, you're talking about an average of, 2 or 3. So you're talking about a DC 25 or die. They've got mirror swords, they got more chain swords, and that's before we get into all of their other weapons. So they've got shuriken weapons, which are just awful because they're automatic and they can just shred everything in front of them. Because they have a capacity of 1,000. Every time they use automatic fire, they fire 100 rounds. And they can target up to 50 foes, friends, and objects at a time. Shurikens are broken. They have filaments, then they have all the aspect armors that we just went through, which are incredible and terrifying and everything else. Then we get into all their vehicles. Every single one of them hovers, because they don't know what wheels are, except for the ones that have legs. But they have bikes, some of which can carry more than one person, so you can always bring a friend into battle with you. They have tanks that they can outfit in any way they want. They have jets, they have walkers. It's incredible. And the weapons that come with them. I mean, the distortion cannons. Distortion cannon is not fun. Distortion cannon is instant death. I mean, it's more instant death by the goddamn Eldar. And just to make sure that everything works for them, they have all the auxiliary paths. They don't get a theme. They just get this. It's like a theme, but better. And so whatever you pick, it will serve you well. Just make sure somebody takes, Path of Service, because then you're going to have a good day. Somebody needs to take the Path of Service. Alright, so, yeah, Eldar. I think Eldar are done. Is there anything else we could possibly do for them? I don't think so. Auxiliary Path. No, I don't want to do the Auxiliary Path. Here we go. Auxiliary. Where's my mouse? There's my mouse. So if we look at the table of contents here, anatomy and physiology, we went through that already. History, don't care. Technology, we did that. Paths, we did that. Warhost, not important. Craft worlds, not important right now. Exodites, religion, and gods, not important right now, but if you want to make an Eldar character, that will be important. Relations with other races. What relations? No, I think we're done. I think we are absolutely done with the Eldar. It's about time. Okay. Well, I mean, I'm conflicted. I'm not sure how I feel now. I've been working on the Eldar for so long. I feel lost. What do we do? Well, there's still a lot of things that we do have to do. Like I said, we're going to have to go back and revisit some of the other ones. Like, we never did any of the vehicles for the Imperium. I don't think they have a lot of vehicles, though. They have a couple of jets, they have a couple of tanks, and that's it. They have a million different variations on those tanks, but we don't need variations. You can dress up your tank however you want. I just need to make the tank itself. Same thing with all their jets and stuff. We didn't do the vehicles for the Mechanicus either. But again, they don't have a whole lot. They have Striders, they have Dune Crawlers, a couple of jets, and that's about it. No, the Tau and the Eldar were the hardest ones. They were the most expansive ones. And then the Astartes, if we decide we're going to keep them, they use all the same vehicles as the Imperium does. So, two birds with one stone there. So I think next time we'll go back and we'll revisit the Imperium just to make sure that we've got everything done there. Should not take that long, I don't think. And then after that, we can start on Psychers, which is going to be complicated, because I will have to look up an entire list of what all of the psychic abilities in 40k are, see if I can compile that into a list, or if there's one ready-made, we'll do that. And then we got to figure out how we translate those into Starfinder. So, if you want to do that, if you want to be here for that, make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon, that way you get notified whenever these videos come out. If you know somebody else who's also into tabletop games, if they're into 40k, Starfinder, whatever it happens to be, share this video with them. But otherwise, if you just like me and you enjoyed the stream, leave a like on the video, leave a comment down below, leave something, or in the chat, either way. If you want to play with us someday, if you want to play with us now for that matter, you have to join the Discord. So in the comments, there should be a link to Discord. Join the Discord, hit me up in the behind the screen channel, let me know what your availability is like, and we'll see if we can integrate you in. I'm good at that kind of thing. It's pretty easy to pick people up along the way. So if you want to play with us, you got to do all that. Otherwise though, if you just enjoy the streams, I will see you next time for more Warhammer 40k, and until then, take care.